Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. It's a very exciting day today. I'm going to show you the Cricut Venture. We're going to unbox it and we're going to take a look at what it can do. Now this video is sponsored by Cricut, however all projects and opinions are my own. And trust me, you are going to love this machine. So first of all, let's take it out of the box. And here is the all-new Cricut Venture in the box. So let's unbox it and see what's actually inside the packaging. And here's the machine itself in the box. I'm going to go ahead and take it out and show you what's inside. You will want to remove any packaging material. You'll have some clear protective film, a few other things you need to remove, this included. So for this one you need to lift up the lever that's on the side of Venture and then just pull this entire packaging out and discard. Your fine point blade is already installed into Cricut Venture, so it does come with a fine point blade. Other items you'll find inside include a power cord, a couple other like USB cords. There's a cutoff tool, and I will show you how to use this. There are some cleaning tools, roll supports, as well as a mat support, and I will show you how to use this and to cut with and without a mat. Then you will also find some material. There is enough material in here for you to do your first test cuts, and there will be a website address on the side of one of the packages inside of the Cricut Venture box, and you can use this to register your Cricut machine. Now that we have Cricut Venture out of the packaging, I have my computer set up and I'm going to go ahead and activate the machine. Then we'll take a look at some of the features and buttons. This side of the machine has an indicator light at the top that will indicate when it's on. It also has the load unload button, the go button, as well as pause. These are similar to other Cricut machines. You also find the tool holder as well as clamp A and B. Remember that your fine point blade will already be installed and you can remove it and add other blades. Now the Cricut Venture will take any blade that a Cricut Explorer machine will take. Then this other side will take all pins and markers, Cricut pins and markers. All of those that are compatible with the Explorer series will fit into this holder. So I'm going to go ahead and add my fine point blade back in. I'm going to close both clamps. You will notice this roller on this side as well. We're going to take a look at the rollers themselves after we take a look at the back of this side where the power is located. On this back side you'll insert the power cable, and then this is the USB cable slot. It does come with a cable for both PC and Mac. And the machine is also Bluetooth compatible, so you don't have to use this slot. You can communicate with the machine via Bluetooth. Whichever way is more convenient for you will work in this case. And then this is the power button, so you can turn the machine on and off with this button. This little cutoff tool that I talked about comes with the machine. On this opposite side of the machine there is a slot at the top, and you just slide it in. It's perfect for holding the blade so you don't lose it. Also on this side is a lever. When I lift this lever up, watch this roller. It lifts as I lift the lever up. This unlocks the rollers. However, the roller on this side of the machine is fixed. The roller on the opposite side of the machine that I showed you earlier is actually the one that's going to move. So let's take a look at how that works. So I'll just lift this up, unlock the rollers, and then this roller over here, I can just move it with my hand to the second position. So it has two positions, one here for the 13-inch wide smart material that you can use with the Maker 3 and Explorer 3, and one over to the left over here for the 25-inch smart material that you would use only with the Cricut Venture. Now when I move it over to this position, it kind of clicks and locks in. It won't move any further over, so it has to click into one of these locations. And when it clicks in, I just close the lever to lock it into place. And then the rollers are ready to go. There is also a set of guides on the machine, so let's take a look at how you raise and lower those. So I am going to move this roller out of the way just so you can see the guide itself. These blue levers, when you raise them, you'll see back in there, a guide raises up. You can raise and lower that guide depending on if you need it. There's one in the center as well as on the left and on the right. You can also see that guide pop up here at the top. And then I also wanted to note these numbers. So you have a 1 here, and that is your position for your roller. And then the other position is number 2. If I was to move it all the way over and lock it into place on the other one, it is number 2. So you can note those numbers as well. So this is the number 1 position, which is for the 13-inch wide smart material. Before use on the back of the machine, you can add these roll guides. Now they do recommend that you add these if you are not using the cart. There is an optional cart that you can purchase separately, and we'll cover that later in this video. If you're using these, there are holes on the back of the machine, one on each side, and it should just lock into place. And then I will repeat the same process on the opposite side of the machine for the other guide. I did want to note that this guide on the opposite side of the machine is adjustable. I can move it closer in for those shorter smart materials. You may also notice that Cricut Venture is at an angle. That is because with the very large materials and large mats that you're going to use, if it was like a traditional Cricut machine and everything laid flat, it would take up an extreme amount of room with the materials moving in and out of the machine. With it at an angle, it takes up less space because you're able to use that vertical height. So now let's talk about blades in Cricut Venture. The blade it comes with is a fine point blade. However, it's called the Performance Fine Point Blade. So this was released new with Cricut Venture and is recommended for this machine. It gives you a longer blade life and optimal performance with the machine. The housing is the same as the fine point blade. Now, this machine can also use any blade that Cricut Explorer can use. So here I have the deep point blade, and we can drop that into Cricut Venture if we wanted to cut something that required the deep point blade. Now, you can also cut bonded fabric with this machine. So you might want a bonded fabric blade, which is just the fine point blade in a pink housing. That way you can have one that's just for fabric, and we can drop that in and close the clamp. We can also use the foil tool with this machine. So you could use those foil sheets and that foil tool. Remember, the foil tool has 3 tips. So you want to choose your tip, drop it in, close the clamp. And then the accessories that go in this clamp for the Explorer can also be used with Cricut Venture. So things like the scoring stylus. If you want to score with this machine, you just drop the scoring stylus in, press it down, and close the clamp. If you want to use pens, you can use those as well. So just the regular Cricut pens, drop those in, push those down, close the clamp. You can also use infusible ink, pens, and markers. Again, drop those in, push them down, and close the clamp. Also with Cricut Venture, there is a new blade. It is called the cutoff blade. We are going to go over how to use this, but it will cut off your material automatically at the end of a long cut. This goes in this side. So if I was going to do a cut with this blade, I would put in my Performance Fine Point blade. And then I need to put this cutoff blade, and I'm going to remove the protective cover. I need to put this cutoff blade into this clamp. To do that, you will need to remove the adapter. So just press it from the bottom, pull it out. This location knob that's on the cutoff blade goes to the back. So we can just put that in there, location knob to the back, and then close the clamp. So now we have our fine point blade on one side and our cutoff blade on the other side. Now when we do a long cut later in this video, I'm going to use the cutoff blade to trim my material off. So stay tuned for that. With the release of Cricut Venture, Cricut also released a line of permanent markers. Now these are significantly larger than their regular pens and markers. You will put this in the pen side. However, just like I removed the adapter to add this cutoff blade, you don't need the adapter in there to put the permanent marker inside. Now I will do another video all about the permanent markers. However, you just drop it in, it has a stop on it, and you close the clamp to use the permanent markers. Stay tuned for another video on that because you can use them with Cricut Venture, Cricut Explorer series, or Cricut Maker series. So I did want to note that the auto cutoff blade is only for Cricut Venture, so you won't be able to use that with any other machine. It's only designed for the Cricut Venture machine. And then I mentioned the Performance Fine Point blade that was developed specifically for Cricut Venture. So what Cricut found was the fine point blade for the other machines did not last as long in Cricut Venture. Constantly changing blades, and no one wants that. So they developed the Performance Fine Point blade to fix that issue. So I would recommend that you only use Performance Fine Point blades in your Cricut Venture. And then I did talk about how you could use the bonded fabric blade in the Venture. The bonded fabric blade is just the fine point blade in a pink housing, like I said. So you'd like scissors for your fabric, you want a fabric blade for fabric. If you want to get the best performance out of that fabric cutting blade, I would put a Performance Fine Point blade in that pink housing and mark it only for your Venture if you have other Cricut machines. That would give you the best performance and make your bonded fabric blade last as long as possible. Cricut Design Space will also walk you through making your first project. We are going to use the black smart vinyl that is included in the Cricut Venture box. You want to raise the lever to raise the rollers and then raise the guides. Now Cricut Design Space will tell you which guides to raise. In this case, I'm using a 13-inch wide piece of smart vinyl, so I'm going to raise the middle guide and the one on the side. So I'm going to raise those guides up, and then I'm going to load my material. When you're loading your material, you want to make sure that it goes under the guides in the back, as well as between the guides on the front. Then once your material's in place, you're going to lower that lever to lower those rollers into place. Then you just press the unload load button to load that material in. Cricut Venture will then measure the material, make sure you have enough, and then it's ready to cut. All that's left to do is press go. You do want to make sure that you have the correct blades and any pens, markers, etc. loaded that Cricut Design Space tells you to load. Once it's done cutting, it is recommended that you use the cutoff tool to trim the material. That keeps your material as straight as possible. Remember that cutoff tool is stored right on the machine. Then you just place it in the guide on the machine and run it across your material, and it cuts the piece that has your design off of the roll of material. Then you'll just raise that lever again to raise those rollers up, and you can unload your material. Now, unloading from the back of the machine is the best way to do that, because if you're cutting with a roll or something like that, it will be located in the back of the machine. Now that we have our first cut, let's take a look at how good it is. So do we just want to weed it, take a look at the cut, and make sure everything cut correctly. This one is cut perfectly and looks great. I wanted to talk about the sound of the Cricut Venture a minute. So I'm going to load this piece of smart vinyl, and you're going to hear the machine kick on. So the Venture itself has a series of vacuum ports. So you'll find small holes all along the Cricut Venture. That is to hold the smart vinyl down and make sure that it stays tight against the machine when you're cutting. So you don't want any bubbles in your material, you don't want it sticking up at all, you want it nice and flat to get that perfect cut. And that vacuum is what does that for you. So when you hear that noise, when you stick your vinyl into the Cricut Venture, it's just to hold your material or whatever you're putting in the Venture into place. So don't be scared when you hear that sound, it's just your vacuum. Next, let's talk about the stand for Cricut Venture. So you can get this stand. It is a separate purchase, so you do want to be aware of that. And I'm going to show you how to add Venture to the stand, and I'm going to show you a bunch of the features of the stand. And you might even see some mats hanging in the stand. Yes, we are going to talk about the mats that you can use for Cricut Venture as well. On the stand itself, you'll use these to locate the Venture. There are corresponding recesses on the Venture itself, so just line it up with those and set it down. This locks it into place, so I can't pull it off, and I could actually move this stand around by holding the machine. However, if I want to take it off the stand, I just lean Venture back, and it comes right off. So it is easy to add and remove. The stand also has its own roll holder in the back, so you'll add your roll of material to this, feed it through Venture up here at the top, and it will come out the front. There are baskets in the front and the back of the stand, and they just kind of fold out. And these are catch baskets. On the front, they'll catch as your vinyl is cut, those pieces. And on the back, it will catch when it measures your long vinyl. It will catch in that back basket. Now, a couple features of these baskets, they are anti-static, which when you're dealing with very long rolls of vinyl like this is very important. That way your cut piece or your roll of vinyl doesn't get all staticky and pick up tons of hair and things like that. When you open these, they stay open, so no hands, it stays open. And it does have like a breakaway type feature. So if one of the kids grabs it, it's not easy to break, but you can break it away. So if someone was to pull on it, you would just attach these little pieces back. So the breakaway feature is nice if you're worried about having the cart and small children. Now I have both sides back on and it's ready to use again. Now I mentioned that the mats were hanging on the inside. We're going to talk about the mats next, but the cart holds the mats. These mats are very large, so they're a 12 by 24 mat and a 24 by 28 inch mat. So having them stored on the cart is very nice. So I just wanted to demonstrate how I put them on the cart, and then we'll take a look at the mats themselves. To put them on the cart, I open the basket, slide it in this little gap right there, and there is a hole on the mat, and you just slide it in and put it over the hook that's in the cart. And then your mats just hang inside of the cart. So you might be able to see my mats on the inside here, just hanging down inside of my cart. Before we get into the mats that I have here on my table, I did want to mention that the stand itself was not made for any other machine. So it's only for Cricut Venture. You couldn't use it for your Maker or Explore series, that type of thing. So now let's talk about the mats for Cricut Venture. As I mentioned, they are large. So this is the 12 by 24 mat, and it comes in 3 different grip strengths. Now the first thing you might notice is that the colors look a little bit different than they're used to. So this is the light, standard, and strong grip mat. Slightly different shades of blue, green, and purple. Why are they different shades? The Cricut Venture mats are called performance mats. Basically, the speed and the strength of the Cricut Venture was tearing up the original mats. So the original mats for your Explore or Maker series will not work on Cricut Venture. You will need to get different mats for this machine. Now the other thing about these mats, the 12 by 24, is that the hole is on this long end. So that is a bit different as well. And then I mentioned 3 different grip strengths, right? I mentioned light, I mentioned standard, I mentioned strong, but I did not mention fabric. The Cricut Venture will cut bonded fabric, and what Cricut recommends is to use your standard grip mat. The light grip mat would probably work. I would use one of those other mats for that bonded fabric. Now, let's take a look at those very large mats. So 24 by 28 inch mats. And we're gonna go back to the stand and discuss how to use these big mats because they are large. They also come in the light grip. I'm not gonna hold all of these up at once. Standard grip, and then finally the strong grip. So very, very large mats. And we're gonna talk about materials in a minute. There is some large paper that's being released that goes with these large mats. Now, you can cut any of the materials that the Cricut Venture will cut. You can cut them on a mat. So you don't have to use the smart materials. The smart materials are if you want to cut off a roll and do matless cutting. If you want to cut on a mat, it cuts basically any material that the Cricut Explore series would cut. You can think about it that way. Now the Cricut Venture does have more power and it cuts faster than any previous Cricut machine. So it is not just an Explorer that is larger. However, you can look at it as if I could cut it with my Explorer, I can cut it with my Venture. Now I am going to cut several different materials and show you the results of those later in this video to give you an idea of what all this machine can do. Now the mats work in a similar way, right? So they have a protective sheet over the top. You peel that back and there's a sticky area. And now you can really see just how purple this strong grip mat is. Then it has a sticky area just like your other mats. So putting material on them is going to be very similar if you have a Cricut machine. However, we are going to make a cut on a mat so you can see just how to use the mats and how Cricut Venture works with them. First of all, let's take a look at adding the mats to Venture because like I said, these are very large. We talked about the fact that the Venture's on a 45-degree angle. So how is this going to work? How is it going to hold these mats? Let's take a look at the machine and see how to do that. If you want to use your machine with a mat, you'll lift the lever and under that there is a button. Now, your machine does have to be on the very edge of a table in order for this to work because when you press that button, 2 guides will come out. One at the top as well as one at the bottom. So now, if I just wanted to use the 12 by 24 mat, I would just extend the mat support arms and I would lift the guides on both sides and I could put my mat inside. And the support arm up top would hold the top portion, and as it cuts, the support arm on the bottom would hold the cut. We will cut something in a minute. Now, if you want to use the 12 by 24 mat, you need a little more support. So let's take a look at adding the additional support. When you remove the mat guide from the packaging, it will not be assembled. So you'll need to take those middle pieces out and assemble them on both sides. Then you can add it to the machine. Let's take a look at how it goes on the machine. Once you assemble that additional support, you just put it behind the existing support and then slide it down into place. Now let's use the large 24 by 28 inch mat with Cricut Venture. So we added the additional support arm and you want to put it in the 24 inch side, so the shorter side. Again, the guides are raised on both ends. And I'm just going to put it on the supports, line it up with the guides on both sides, and then you would feed the mat into Cricut Venture. And now I can let it go, and it's fine in the machine. Again, that lower support arm will support it as it feeds through. when you raise the arm and then click the button to extend the mat guides, you might also notice that some guides pop out at the bottom of Cricut Venture. These are kind of like rests to put your mat. You go ahead and put your mat into Cricut Venture. It rests against those guides. Then once you close the lever, those guides will go down. They won't pop back up again unless you close the mat guides and open them back up again. I did not do that every time, so I just kept repeating and putting my mat inside without those guides in place, and Cricut Venture did fine. So it knew exactly where my mat was and was able to locate the cut accordingly. So I'm going to make a project on the large 24 by 28 inch mat, and I'm just removing the protective film. Again, you can really see the difference in the colors of the mats once that foam is off. Then we're going to cut on this large 24 by 28 cardstock, and I will go over all of the materials in just a minute. But you just apply the cardstock to the sticky portion of the mat and smooth it out. Now you do want your cardstock to be down really well on the mat, and with this big of a piece, something like a brayer comes in really handy. So I'm going to cut this extra large box so we can use the pens. We're going to score, and it's 24 inches long when it's flat like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Make It, and it is going to tell me that the design will be oriented in the bottom corner of the mat. This is very different from other Cricut machines, so if you use another Cricut machine, you will need to get used to this. Now we can see that this is cutting on a 24 by 28 inch piece of paper, and it will require that large mat. Then I'm just going to click Continue and pick my material. I did want to note here that currently Cricut Venture is not supported by Design Space for mobile. You can design in mobile, but you will need a computer to cut. It does have a Bluetooth connection, however, so you don't have to use the cord all the time. Once you press Make It, you can choose medium cardstock as your setting, and then Design Space will walk you through the steps. All you have to do is follow these steps. And you will also note that it does tell you that you're going to need a marker later on. So let's follow these steps. So the first step it says is to put the scoring stylus in clamp A. So I have my scoring stylus, and I'm just going to drop that in clamp A and close it. I already have my fine point blade in clamp B. Then it says to lift the lever and adjust the pinch roller. Now I already have it in position 2. And then we do need to lift the guides. So I need to make sure that the guides are up on both the left as well as the right. So the center guide is down and the guides are up on both sides. I do also have my mat support arm attached because I am going to use my larger mat. Then it says to lift the support arm to load the mat. Now we're going to add the mat to the machine. Remember, it is going to orient the cut in this bottom corner down here. And you will hear the machine start up once again, and that is that vacuum starting up, making sure that the mat stays down on the machine. So we just want to put this mat into place, and then we're going to close down the pinch rollers. Now Venture has sensors, so it will know where the mat is located. All we have to do at this point is press the load unload button, and it is blinking on the machine. You can see the mat goes all the way in, comes all the way out. That's measuring to make sure that we have the mat installed correctly and it's in the correct orientation. Now all we have to do is press the go button, which is flashing at this point. I am going to leave this in real-time speed so that you can see just how fast this machine is. It did stop, and now it wants me to load the pen. So I'm going to remove my scoring stylus, take the cap off my pen, and pop the pen into the holder. Then close clamp A. Now I'm just going to press the go button again to start it back up. So I actually had 2 different pen colors in Design Space, but I want to use the same pen, so I'm just going to press go again. And just that quickly our cut is done. So it did score the material, then we added the pen and it drew all the lines and it cut around our box shape. Now it says to unload the mat. On other Cricut machines, you need to press the unload load button to unload the mat. But on this machine, you can just lift this lever and pull the mat out. So here is my material cut, and we'll just go ahead and remove this from the mat. Now this cardstock is so large that if you have excess pieces, I would definitely just trim it off. And then for your material itself, it is best to peel your mat back from the material. So if you want to flip this over and just sort of peel the mat back, just so this paper doesn't curl. You don't want these large pieces of paper to curl. Then for the mat itself, you would want to put your protective sheet back on there. And I find it easiest to sort of roll it up in my hand and line up the hole it hangs by first, and then just sort of smooth it out. It might have some bubbles in it, but as long as you get the entire sticky area covered, I think you'll be fine. Now here is our very large cut, and it cut perfectly. I'm super impressed with the drawing. And yes, it did even score my material. So this is a really great example of just how big you can go with the Cricut Venture. So I'm just gonna add some adhesive to this one, and I will have a huge, huge container. So think about boxes and containers that you can make with this large format paper and the Cricut Venture. Let's talk all about materials that work in the Cricut Venture. First, if you wanna cut without a mat, you will need Cricut Smart materials in either the 13-inch width, or there is now a 25-inch width. So very wide and long rolls of material. So you have vinyl, iron-on, smart stencil, and transfer tape that are now in that large 25-inch wide size. Now depending on the type and the color, they come in a few different lengths. 5 foot, 12 foot, 21 foot, and 75 feet. So yes, this roll beside me is a 75-foot long roll of vinyl that's 25 inches wide. That is huge. Imagine the projects you could make. We are going to talk about maximum cut sizes here in a minute on these matless materials. But first we'll talk about other materials that you can use in your Cricut Venture. So if we're talking about matless cutting, you can also get smart paper sticker cardstock. And they released a 13 by 25 inch size. Previously the maximum was 13 by 13, but now you have this huge piece of smart paper sticker cardstock. And smart paper sticker cardstock is one of my favorites. So it is a paper, but it already has that adhesive on the back. It's one of my favorite products to work with, especially for things like labels. You can write on it with pens and have a ready-made label. Then also you saw me use the new cardstock they released in the project we just made. So it is 24 by 28, comes in a wide variety of colors, and makes making very large paper projects even easier. So as I mentioned before, if you want to add materials to the mat, you can cut any material that the Cricut Explorer will cut. I thought we would cut a few of those just so I can show you that on the mat you can cut a wide variety of materials. So let's cut a few materials with Cricut Venture. Here I'm just cutting a heart out of a variety of materials. I put the heart into Design Space and I'm cutting it with my Cricut Venture. Now I'm going to play some music over this. I'm going to let the Venture cut at the speed it normally cuts, just so you can see how fast this goes. You will see me cut iron-on, vinyl, faux leather, bonded fabric, wood veneer, acetate, felt, and infusible ink on the mat with the Cricut Venture. Now reminder, with all of these materials on a mat, your cut will be located in that bottom corner, and you will need to follow all instructions. So you might need to mirror your cut for things like iron-on or faux leather if you're cutting it face down on a mat. You might also need to change your blade. So in the case of the wood veneer, I added my deep point blade. If you'll note here, I cut the bonded fabric accidentally with my Performance fine point blade, but that is okay, it was brand new. My fabric cut fine. So here are my cut pieces, and I must say all of these cuts turned out amazing. So this is iron-on, vinyl, bonded fabric. If you don't know what bonded fabric is, or you don't know what to put on the back of it to make it bonded fabric, I do have another video for that, and I'll link it in the description below this one. Felt. This is the Cricut felt, which I find cuts best on this type of machine. Acetate. Wood veneer. Now you can only cut the wood veneer with this one, which is a thin wood that is fairly flexible. Infusible ink and faux leather. Now with the infusible ink, the cut settings needed a little work because it did cut through that carrier sheet, but otherwise everything cut amazingly. So now that you've seen some of those cuts, you can see that there is a wide variety of materials, and that just scratches the surface. There are hundreds of materials that this machine can cut. So grab your mats, grab your material, and start experimenting on a wide range of materials with Cricut Venture. Can Cricut Venture do print and cut? Yes, absolutely. So let's give print and cut a try on the Venture. Now I'm going to keep going with a party theme here, and I'm going to make some party stickers. So I headed to Cricut Design Space and I found my image and created a sticker shape. All I did was flatten an image to a circle. Then click Make It. As you can see, Cricut Design Space put this on a sheet of paper. Now you might notice a little something different about print and cut. Yes, it goes up to huge sizes. The maximum for print and cut with the Cricut Venture is 24 by 28 inches. If you have a large format printer, you are going to love this machine. I'm going to go ahead and change my paper size to 8.5 by 11 because I'm using Cricut printable vinyl to make some stickers. I want 12 stickers on my sheet, so I went ahead and put in 12 and apply. I went ahead and printed my sticker sheet on my printer, and then I put it on my mat. And I headed to my Cricut Venture to cut my stickers out. Now you do print and cut in the same way. So I applied the printable vinyl to the mat, then I added the mat to my Cricut Venture. Added the mat in the same way as I did all the other times I've used this machine for cuts on the mat. Then just go ahead and click go, and first the Cricut Venture will read the registration marks, and then it will cut all around your stickers. Now I am not going to speed this up. This literally cut these stickers this fast. It cuts fast no matter if it's cutting matless or on the mat, which I personally love. If you want to make quick stickers, quick print and cut projects, Cricut Venture might just be the machine for you. Once it cut those stickers, I went ahead and removed my mat. So now my stickers are all cut. A sheet of stickers with the Cricut Venture. So yes, you can still do print and cut with this machine. And remember, you can do those even larger sizes now with the Cricut Venture. So now let's do a cut without a mat using the Smart Materials, and I am going to use the new 25-inch Smart Materials here. Head to Cricut Design Space, design your project. In this case, I'm going to make this the maximum width I can. So the maximum width is 24 inches, so I went ahead and made the cut 24 inches wide, and however long it takes. And then I clicked Make It. Once I click Make It, you can see that it puts it on a matless material and shows me my cut. I can actually do repeating cuts here, so I can do 3 of these if I wanted to put them on several different walls for a birthday party. Yes, I'm continuing with the party theme. Then go ahead and click Continue and pick your material. And now for this cut, I'm going to demonstrate that auto cutoff blade. To do that, you just click the button right here on the screen for the auto cutoff blade. The directions will then change and tell you to add your auto cutoff blade to clamp A. Of course, your fine point blade to clamp B, and all those instructions that we went through with the cut on the mat. Go ahead and leave the material on the roll. Add the roll. In this case, I'm adding it to the cart, but you saw the machine does come with roll holders that you could use on your table if you don't have the cart. Then go ahead and lift the lever, feed your vinyl roll into the machine. Be sure that the mat guides on either side are up, and then your material feeds under those. Feed your material in, then close that lever. Then press the load unload button on Cricut Venture. It will measure the material for you, making sure you have enough material. Here again, I'm using the cart, so I went ahead and opened both the anti-static baskets on the front and on the back before I started my cut. That way it catches the material as it feeds through. So it'll feed through, catch the material in the front as well as the back, keeping that material up off of the floor and away from any dirt and debris. Then I'm going to press go and let Cricut Venture cut this very large design. I'm going to keep this in real-time speed just so you can see how fast it cuts this design. Yes, I'm not speeding this up and I'm not slowing it down. So watch this machine cut this large design. So I did want to note here, when you're doing these large matless cuts, you will need to add 3.25 inches to your cut. So that accounts for a little material at the start, a little material at the end, in order for Venture to basically grip the material. Using either the auto cutoff blade or that manual cutoff blade, so I've used both in this video, using one of those at the end will help to save your material because you can save that's at that end. But you will notice a little bit of excess material on one end at least when you're cutting matless with Cricut Venture. So definitely pick a roll that is longer than the cut you need. So pick a very long roll of material. The Venture measures the material and then only uses what it requires. So you don't need to worry about cutting a sheet to size, just put the roll in the machine. Once it's done cutting, the auto cutoff blade will engage and it will cut off your vinyl. Then that vinyl falls directly into that catch basket on the front. So again, it doesn't fall on the floor with the auto cutoff blade. And now my cut is done. So I can go ahead and lift the lever. I can remove the roll. It is cut off straight and I don't have to cut off the roll of vinyl myself. So I did want to note here that the vinyl kind of rolled up in that back catch basket, like the excess coming off the roll. All I need to do from that roll holder in the back is kind of roll my vinyl up. And if I was going to use this roll repeatedly, I could like leave this on the cart or I could put it up at this point. Once your vinyl is out of both sides, just close those catch baskets and Cricut Venture is ready to store away until the next time you need to use it. And here's that extra long cut completely weighted. So I absolutely love the way this machine does matless cutting and how big I can get with my projects. So yes, this is a huge wall decal, perfect for a party, and I cut it all with the Cricut Venture all in one cut. And as I showed you, you could do multiples of these if you wanted a variety of wall decals or whatever large, huge project you have in mind. Let's talk about maximum cut sizes. If you're using smart materials, the 25-inch smart materials, you can get a 24-inch cut. And you can cut a project 24 inches wide, but up to like 12 feet long. And then you can repeat those cuts up to 75 feet. That is a lot of cutting all at once with one time through Cricut Venture. If you're using those smaller smart material rolls, you can actually go up to 12 inches, which is a little bit wider than the Explorer 3 and the Maker 3 will go. So you can go up to 12 inches on the 13-inch wide smart material. And again, those same maximum lengths would apply. On the smart paper, you can go up to 12 by 22 inches. And on the 12 by 24 mat, you can go up to 11.75 by 23.75 inches. And on the 24 by 28 mat, you can go up to 23.75 by 27.75 inches. And when we're talking about those maximums on smart material, I do want to do one exception. So glitter iron-on doesn't work great beyond 5 feet. So I would stay within 5 feet for glitter iron-on projects. Let's talk about cleaning Cricut Venture. With a professional machine like this, you are going to have to do some cleaning. Every 100 hours or so, Design Space is going to prompt you to clean your machine. The machine comes with that cleaning kit that I showed you at the beginning. Add some rubbing alcohol to your microfiber cloth, and then add the clip. Then you just put that in the groove and move it back and forth. And you can actually do this anytime there's debris in that groove. Any debris in that groove can damage your machine, so always keep an eye on that. The brush that is included in your cleaning kit is for the rollers. Design Space will prompt you. It will actually make the rollers turn, and then you just dip the brush in some rubbing alcohol and brush those rollers, getting any debris off the rollers themselves. You can also do that as needed, so if you notice debris on the rollers of your Cricut Venture, be sure to go ahead and run that cleaning cycle. Alright, so now I've made some projects with the Cricut Venture. I've put it to the test on quite a few different materials with my tests, and I wanted to give you like a reasons why you should buy Cricut Venture. Number one reason, you want to do larger cuts, wider cuts, or longer cuts. If either of those apply to you, then you'll definitely want to look into Cricut Venture. Second reason, you run a craft business and you want to get more productivity, more production. You want to make, 100 of something and just want to send it to the cutting machine one time. You don't want to have 6 Cricut machines cutting at once. Cricut Venture might be an investment that you want to make in your craft business. Number 3, you just love Cricut products and you want to give this machine a try. I know you people are out there, and this is definitely a really great machine. It is very, very robust. So this is the most robust Cricut machine they've ever made. It's also the fastest Cricut machine they've ever made. And I must say I am super impressed with the speed, the design on that 45-degree angle so it takes up less space, and the fact that you can get that cart and wheel it anywhere around my craft room and use it probably like anywhere in my home. Like the cart maneuvers wonderfully. You can unlock the wheels. The machine feels sturdy on the cart, and I love those catch baskets, and the fact that I can store those huge mats right on the cart is a game changer for me. So overall, I personally love the machine, and I do think that you would love it as well. Now, one of those reasons might apply to you, or another reason entirely, perhaps you've just found this video and you've fallen in love with Cricut Venture, then by all means, give it a try. I really think you're gonna love it. So let's talk pricing. I always hesitate to include pricing in my videos because it can change, but as of the release of Cricut Venture, I'm gonna talk about the manufacturer's suggested retail price. That does mean that it could go on sale later and be a completely different price. However, right now, Cricut Venture itself is $9.99. The stand by itself is $3.49, and then if you bundle those together, the price is $12.49 for the machine and stand bundle. And that is US dollar pricing. Of course, it will vary in other countries. So I did want to note that that automatic cutoff blade that I showed is not available for sale yet. It is coming soon. So if you want that blade, you will have to wait a little bit. So let's talk warranty. So the warranty on the machine comes with a 1-year warranty. There is no warranty on the stand itself. They are offering an extended warranty in the US that you can purchase for an additional price. So if that interests you, be sure to look at that when you purchase your Cricut Venture. All right, so who is excited about Cricut Venture? So I did want to mention that Cricut has engineered this machine to last longer than any other Cricut machine that's ever been made before. I personally really love the design itself. So my favorite features, let's talk about Angie's favorite part of Cricut Venture. My favorite features are definitely the 45-degree angle, so it takes up less space. There's no way I could use a machine this large in my small craft room without that 45-degree angle. Second thing I love is the stand. It is an amazing design. Holds the Venture perfectly, those baskets on the front, the roll holder, everything about the stand, absolutely love it. Those very huge mats are amazing. That's probably my number 3. Being able to cut even larger, even on a mat, is great. And then the speed is number 4 for me. So the speed, as you saw in this video, is incredible. Now it is faster on and off the mat. So with mat and matless cutting, which was important to me because I wanted to be fast cutting all of those materials. And you saw how fast it was cutting these stickers, like incredible speed all the time. And then 5th for me was just being able to cut a bunch of different materials. So with a machine this size, professional grade machine, usually the materials are very limited, like it's just like a vinyl cutting machine or something like that. However, this machine can cut hundreds of materials. So that huge wide variety of materials that I can cut is probably my 5th favorite thing about Cricut Venture. So if you have any questions about Cricut Venture, please drop down in the comment section, ask away. So I will try to answer those in the comment section, and I will be doing future videos on Cricut Venture. So you might see a future video all about the question you have. If you like this video, if it helped you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.